As we grow up, we learn about math in class. We are taught addition and subtraction, what increases and what can be taken away with a simple symbol change. Today, the symbol changes by the second. Every 24 seconds, the world rediscovers what aftermath means, what minus means. Minus father, minus daughter returning from a meal, minus mother, minus cousins behind his first automobile. We are made to discover too early the mathematics of loss. And every day the lessons find their way into old photos and keepsakes, into a typical Sunday morning sitting on the lips of a farewell prayer or a birthday celebration with an empty seat that now fills the room. This new minus as simple as loss, as death is as simple as breath. But we will never change your name to the deceased. You will always live in our hearts as temples we will use to pull dreams from when the darkness kisses us into slumber. We will remember you as martyr to martyrs. Your beauty will remain air circling our lungs and giving us life to move forward even as we fear what this same movement has already taken away. They may have been robbed from the earth, but it is the earth that will love them back onto our tongues, in our poems, prayers, and song. And your names, never forgotten, will forever live on.
Aftermath. Mathematics of loss. The names never forgotten that will forever live on. Thank you, Shaka, for these moving words. I'm Etienne Krug, Director for Social Determinants of Health at the World Health Organization. I want to welcome you all very warmly to this global commemoration for the World Day of Remembrance of road traffic victims. We're pleased to have so many of you today on this special occasion, where we invite you to remember the lives lost and support those who lived and survived and act to save lives. As you know, year after year, 1.3 million people lose their lives on the world roads. Each of them has a family, has friends who lose in the instant of a snap second their beloved friend, family member. We're paying an unacceptable price for our mobility. I think most of us could not even start imagining the pain it is to lose a loved one in a road traffic crash. And this is why we want today to start this event by listening to the voice of the bereaved families. We'll have Vivian Perón, who's the mother of Kevin and the founder of Asociación Madres del Dolor in Argentina, and Ritu Bhattarai, the executive secretary of Swatanatrana Abhinyan in Nepal. But we also this year wanted to give the floor to one of the first responders, those who are there crash after crash, trying to save lives on the roads, and themselves go through tough times sometimes. I'm very pleased to have also with us Steve Jordan, station manager of the Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue in the United Kingdom. Vivian, Ritu, and Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Etienne. First of all, I'd like to say that I feel honored to be able to express my feelings today, together with so many that dedicate their lives to road safety. I'll read a letter trying to summarize in a few words what we feel when our loved one is killed, and what my family, just like millions of other families, have had to face when we experience these tragedies. Through these words, I want to honor all those who have lost their lives on the roads of the world. World Day of Remembrance. It's a day we wish we didn't spend in remembrance and grief, and instead we would give whatever we could to be living it with our loved ones. It's a day that reminds us of that moment when our lives and our families' lives imploded, shattered. Today I remember my son Kevin and all of those who, like him, loved life. At the age of 14, his life was all about friends, soccer, playing the drums, and smiling. That beaming smile, which I now remember in silence. The burst of laughter that came together with the smile, that catchy burst of laughter, which made us all laugh together, but now makes us remember him in sadness. Why did this smile disappear? What did I do wrong? These are the questions that torture me every day of my life. The answer is that Kevin, his love for life, for his friends, for his family, shouldn't have disappeared in that 1 second when someone driving at double the speed limit ran over him and left him there. While Kevin was fighting to live, the man that ran over him was already on vacation skiing far from where his family were, far from where Kevin was hospitalized, far from where his friends and family were praying day and night. That's when we realized how important first responders are. The police, the man driving the ambulance that took him, the nurses and doctors all helped to make those terrible days more bearable. Kevin was like so many others at his age, but so special. He played the drums in the school band, the same school where I taught, so I saw him every day at school as well as at home. He played soccer in the local team. Now the picture of his face is on the wall next to the soccer field. His friends still remember him and also suffer. Every year in the month of May, which is when he died, they come home and together we remember how they had fun. Many of them are now fathers and mothers, which is something that we will never be able to see Kevin become. He liked going to school, being with his classmates, living and smiling. Kevin's smile and those smiles that are behind the statistics, the numbers showing deaths and wounded, should remind us that we have the right to live. They had the right to live, but someone decided the opposite. Someone decided to step on an accelerator and go over the allowed speed limit, and that decision changed the lives of all those who knew Kevin. We had to start learning about going in and out of courtrooms, learning new law terminology, speaking to lawyers. We did all this because Kevin's right to live, to have his own family, to study, to have friends, all disappeared in an instant. So we wanted justice to be served, justice, not vengeance. But that was also hard for us, almost impossible. Everything I do now is in my lovely son's honor. I am compelled to act so that his sudden, violent, and unnatural death was not in vain, and to try to ensure that what happened to our family doesn't happen to others. But it does, and the list of names of so many who were taken the right to live continues growing every minute. We not only wanted justice to be served, but also lessons to be learned from Kevin's death in order to prevent a recurrence. For us, the families of the victims, since that day, the day our souls sunk in sadness, the day our lives caved in, every single second, every breath we force our bodies to take is shrouded by their remembrance, but at the same time, illuminated by their smiles. On the World Day of Remembrance, their smiles give us hope. This feeling of hope pushes us to work together so that we can change this reality and save lives. Erin, Mamita te quiere. And now I pass over to Ritu from Nepal. Thank you.
Hello and namaskar. I am Ritu Bhatta from Nepal. I have been leading a non-government organization named Swatantrata Abhiyan Nepal. This is a road safety advocate organization and also the member of Global Alliance of NGOs for Road Safety. Since 2012, we are advocating for safe road behaviors, policy changes, and people's mobilization activity to make safe travel in Nepal. Despite of long road safety campaign and some progressive measures from government of Nepal, we are still suffering road crashes, injuries, and loss of human life as a major issue. I am one of such victim family that I lost my family member 3 years back in road crash. 3 years on, I still believe that my aunt lost her life in a way that she should not have had to, if only there had been support. That day, my aunt and uncle were riding their motorbike on a hilly, bending road, returning from their village to meet their 80 years old mother, who lived in the southern Nepalese city of Biratnagar. In Nepal, motorbike is the most efficient and affordable choice of private vehicle among the large middle class population. So this was my uncle's and aunt's main transport. On the twisty, hilly highway, they were hit by a big truck that drove off and left them there without stopping. My uncle suffered some bruises, but my aunt had an internal bleeding, although they didn't know this at that time. After they were hit by a truck, they waited almost 90 minutes for an ambulance. The government health policy says that they would install a single hotline number for a crash response cases. But we have no numbers till date. There were passers-by, but they were too scared to rescue them because people who help at the road crash scene often get trapped in legal prosecution. This has led to passers-by being reluctant to help victims of road crashes. Even if the ambulance had there in 30 minutes, they could have reached hospital in time. They could have saved her. In addition, when it finally arrived, the ambulance did not have basic facilities like oxygen, paramedics, and other medical equipment. Nepal's road safety policy includes plan to place first aid and a rescue network along the highway with access to an ambulance within 1 hour drive. However, that was not the case for us. After my aunt lost her life, my uncle could not resume his business for a year. Her son was preparing for the medical school entrance exam, which he could not continue and had to defer until the next year. Her daughter, who is a dentist, could not continue her practice at a local clinic and has to defer her plans to do a master's degree, which she still had not been able to start 3 years after crash. My aunt lost her life due to absence of a timely ambulance service and immediate road traffic injuries response. I believe she paid with her life and that she should not have had to. Thus, I call on policymakers to strictly enforce that rescue teams are available every 20 to 30 kilometers, that first aid providers and ambulance facilities are available, and that emergency phone numbers are available everywhere and to everyone to assist in the road crashes. Thank you. I would now like to hand over to Steve.
Hi everybody, my name is Steve Jordan and I've been a professional firefighter for 22 years, working in Greater Manchester. It is an honour to be able to represent all firefighters around the world today on this special day of remembrance. Being a firefighter for me is the best job in the world. Throughout my career, I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with many firefighters from all over the world, mainly in low to middle income countries, donating equipment and providing specialist rescue training with organisations such as FireAid. All firefighters, whether voluntary or professional, share the same DNA. We're a global family, and I would never claim to understand all of the challenges, but I do know many of my firefighter friends around the world face constant resource and equipment challenges, which is increasingly frustrating for them as it
All right. It looks like we have lost Steve.
I was recently asked, do I suffer? Okay. I was recently asked, do I suffer from post-traumatic stress due to all the incidents I've attended and the lives I've seen lost? Of course, I denied it. But given time to reflect on my response, I do wonder. I know that in my brain I have a computer hard drive full of so many incidents I've attended. I've seen terrible things and seen many lives lost. Many of these incidents are burnt into my mind like photographic negatives. No matter how hard I try, they will never be erased. And despite everything, often some trigger will release these images at some random moment. I manage my emotions, but I do wonder one day when I finish my career, what will be the cost? One incident I remember involved a young woman. She had driven to the local gas station to buy cigarettes. She left her baby boy with her friends. Driving back from the gas station, her car hit a curb, which caused it to roll over, trapping her head between the body of the car and the car door. It crushed and deformed her head. I remember her breathing, her eyes bloodshot and bulging, and the one thing I remember is the big pieces of gravel stuck in her eyes from the road, which I will never forget. I remember the guilty feeling, talking to her, telling her she was going to be okay, but knowing there was no way she was going to survive. I was blatantly lying, but hoping if I was the last voice she ever heard, at least it would give her some comfort. But I still feel guilty today. As firefighters, we think about every incident and wonder how avoidable the accident was. If only they hadn't driven too fast, or had chosen not to overtake the car in front whilst another car was coming the other way at the same time, or just stopped for 2 seconds to put the seatbelt on when driving 5 minutes to the local gas station to buy cigarettes whilst her best friend looked after a baby boy. Firefighters in low to middle income countries, many who are volunteers, are constantly frustrated and experience more guilt about how much more they could have done if there was at least some rescue equipment available to help them. I guess in this case, at least I'm in this respect, at least I'm lucky. As firefighters, we know how important it is for events such as today, the World Remembrance Day, to remember all those who have tragically lost their lives, but as a reminder for us about how important it is to keep promoting road safety to our communities so that we don't need to attend such incidents and witness more lives lost. I want to assure you all, we always remember road traffic victims. They are forever in our memories, and assure you we will always be ready to do our best to respond, protect and save lives within our communities, irrespective of the personal and professional limitations and challenges we experience every day. Thank you.
Thanks to the three of you for these honest and very moving testimonies. Vivian, I've known you for many years now, and I think through you, I start to know Kevin a bit, and Kevin continues to live in that way. His smile is amazing, and I'm really sorry for your loss and this amazing life that should have continued. But thank you. I'm full of admiration for the way you transformed this horrible tragedy into such meaningful action. Thanks for everything you're doing. Ritu as well. I mean, I'm amazed by your courage and by your energy. It must have been terrible for your uncle to go through this loss of life and huge frustration of not having the adequate services at hand, which could have saved your aunt's life. Thanks for everything you're doing. And Steve, of course, you too. I mean, the amazing work that first responders are doing is not recognized enough, and the trauma sometimes you go through. So thank you. I think we're very fortunate to have people like you that we can count on in need. So thanks to the three of you for these testimonies. We wanted to start this event with testimonies because this is World Day of Remembrance, but we also want to hear from policymakers, people who actually have the power to change things and catalyze action to address road safety. We'll start with three messages. We have Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the World Health Organization. We're honored to have His Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, and also Jean Todt, the Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General of the United Nations. We'll start with Dr. Tedros. You have the floor.
Dear colleagues and friends, every year over 1.3 million people die on the world's roads, the equivalent of a COVID-19 pandemic every single year. Millions more are seriously injured and face the prospect of long-lasting consequences from the physical and psychological trauma they have endured. These are not just numbers. They're mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, daughters, and sons. Vivian and Ritu, thank you for sharing your personal stories. I cannot imagine the suffering you have endured. And Steve, your statement is a reminder of the vital work of emergency services and the toll that it takes on those whose duty is to respond to crashes. You and your colleagues deserve our heartfelt appreciation for all you do every day. I have recently become a grandfather myself, and I'm reminded again of our vulnerability to the sudden loss associated with road traffic crashes. One moment your loved ones are here beside you, the next they're gone forever. This is made all the more painful by the knowledge that these tragedies are avoidable. The second decade of action for road safety, to be launched next year, is an opportunity to work across sectors and across borders to make roads safer for all who use them. WHO, the UN Red Road Safety Collaboration, and other partners are collecting data to measure gaps and support action to prevent and mitigate road crashes and improve care for victims. We're calling on everyone to remember, support, and act. Remember the lives lost and the life-changing injuries that occur on the world's roads each year. Support those who suffer long-lasting consequences from the physical and psychological trauma they have endured, as well as their bereaved families, and act to prevent such tragedies today. The best way to honor the memory of those who have died on the world's roads is for governments and partners to fulfill their commitments to making our roads safer. I thank you.
Today, Jamaica joins in observing World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims, highlighting the tragic loss of lives on the world's roads, including nearly 400 lives lost on our roads here in Jamaica each year. In the midst of this tragedy, I commend the life-saving efforts of our first responders. True leadership and political will are needed at the highest level of government to tackle this crisis, and every sector of society, transport, health, law enforcement, urban planning, and education, has a contributing role to play. I'm pleased that the most recent UN General Assembly resolution proclaimed a second decade of action for road safety 2021 to 2030, inviting governments to participate in a high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on road safety before the end of 2022. This will help to generate the resolve and action needed to make our roads safe for everyone. Colleagues and friends, on this day, we pause to remember those who lost their lives on our roads, support those who survived road crashes, and take action to save lives.
Ladies, gentlemen, dear friends, this year has seen unprecedented events, but it is during these times of great uncertainty that opportunities often arise. New challenges could be addressed, ambitious objectives could be strongly recalled, such as a world where every citizen has access to safe, affordable, and sustainable mobility. A world where every child can have a safe journey to and from school. COVID-19 set an impetus on more active mobility, more walking and cycling in efforts to enable social distancing measures. The urgent need for these active modes of mobility has increased and quickened some governments' investments in their regard in both developed and developing nations. Furthermore, during peak lockdown periods, road traffic deaths halve in some countries. When simple rules are followed and when traffic volumes are contained, we can save lives. November is always a stark reminder of how far we must go to achieve this ultimate vision. Today, we gather in silence to remember the 1.4 million lives lost and the 50 million more injured with life-sustaining disabilities each year on the roads. In August 2020, Member States adopted one of the strongest UN General Assembly resolutions on improving global road safety. A big step forward and a tribute to all the lives affected by road crashes. COVID-19 has reminded us to revalue human life where one preventable death is too many. I hope you will join us in remembering and supporting those who have suffered from the carnage on our roads. Thank you.
As Dr. Tedros noted, we, all of us, are vulnerable to road traffic crashes. One day, our loved ones are there, and the next they could be gone, until really we scale up our efforts. Thank you very much also, Prime Minister Holness, for being with us and for stressing what I think is a key ingredient of road safety, which is top-level political will. I wish we had more prime ministers like you, so committed to road safety. And thanks also for all your support for the UN General Assembly road safety and road safety resolution and its implementation. And thanks, Jean, for your remarks, stressing also that one life lost, of course, is one too many, and stressing the importance of building back better and using the opportunity of this pandemic to make sure that sustainable transport gets promoted. I'd now like to turn back to Shaka Campbell of Soul City, who gave us the first part of his poem at the beginning of this event. We're now going to listen to the second part, which will be followed by testimonies from two of our ambassadors, Michael Bloomberg, who is the WHO Global Ambassador for NCDs and Injuries, and Zoleka Mandela, who is the Global Ambassador for the Child Health Initiative.
One single road crash, 1 million erased, plus 50 million more injured. Now add the many faces of loved ones needing to walk toward another day after the math is summed. What was beauty and what feels like devastation hold hands when the world thrashes about itself without support. Nonetheless, every night alone, in their own quiet, each left behind relative must pull out the growl stuck to their ribs. This is a struggle to bear. To lose a son is a new language poured down your throat where no one seems to comprehend the hurt. To be once caretaker and provider, to being taken care of and a survivor in a moment's glance, spells out help as both verb and adjective. Because when depression works through the body, it homes itself between things, in places hard to reach, and empties the parts of yourself unused. And yes, the world is suffering from all directions. Hunger, pain, wars. But there are hidden places that do not see the headlines in these times. The risk of road traffic crashes more than 3 times higher in low-income countries than in high. This is why, when there are no answers, just hope clinging to the mouths of our children, the world must walk into each other's open arms with support. Support for the ones left behind. Support for the organizations dedicating their time to more laws, more legislation, more cooperation from governments, because while the lost deserve to be remembered, the remaining must slice a piece of each day to continue living, to reach forward and honor their memories in any way they can.
Today is the World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims. We honor the memories of the more than 1.3 million people who lose their lives to road crashes every year, and the tens of millions who are seriously injured. We also renew our commitment to take action and tackle this global crisis together. Our foundation leads the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative for Global Road Safety. We work closely with countries to strengthen their road safety laws. We also support cities adopting strategies proven to save lives. Together, we've made remarkable progress around the world, from Brazil and Colombia to Ethiopia and Ghana to India and Vietnam. All our efforts have one goal: to end the tragic and preventable loss of life on the world's roads. In this urgently important work, we're grateful for your partnership. Thank you.
I want to start by thanking all my friends at the WHO, our partners who we've worked with for many years. It is a real honor to be among such distinguished company for this World Day of Remembrance. It's encouraging to see leaders and policymakers turn their attention to the crisis on the world's roads on this important day. I'm campaigning in memory of my daughter, Zenani Mandela Jr. For so many of us, for far too many of us, today is a very tough day. I suffered the worst tragedy any of us can imagine. My daughter was taken from me when she was just 13 years old. The pain, I can tell you, never goes away. It's a pain that is felt every single day by thousands of families. And as we're hearing from the victims, the campaigners, and also the experts, this is a pain that no one should ever have to suffer. Quite simply, we can and we must prevent road traffic injury. This is a man-made crisis which claims more than 1.3 million lives each year. And we do not have to search for a vaccine. We have the solutions right in front of us. I have been working and campaigning with the Child Health Initiative. We support partners around the world to put life-saving solutions in place. It can be as simple as putting speed bumps and safe crossings on roads around schools. A major priority is to ensure that where there are people, pedestrians, and vulnerable road users, speeds are reduced to no more than 30 kilometers per hour. Any more than this is a death sentence. My plea is that every single child, every young person should have a safe journey to and from school. In our Child Health Initiative manifesto, this is what we're demanding of our leaders, and we're demanding it absolutely everywhere worldwide. It's the duty of our leaders to ensure every child gets an education, and it must be a priority that every young person is kept safe on the roads, no matter where they live. As we have shown, even in these difficult and challenging times, this must not be seen as an optional extra. In fact, as we respond to COVID-19, it's actually essential that we ensure our roads are safe, particularly for walking and cycling. For one thing, it's our duty to reduce demand on our already overstretched health services and our incredible emergency services who do incredible work, as we're recognizing today. But also, safer roads for walking and cycling can help us in the COVID-19 response in our efforts to promote clean, socially distanced transportation. These are solutions that are better for all of us, for our environment, for our health, and our children. We can take concrete action, as we in the Child Health Initiative have shown, and is clearly set out by the World Health Organization. It's high time that our leaders wake up to this crisis right in front of them on their roads. They must do so for the countless victims and for all the families, like my own, who have suffered and continue to suffer. But they must also do so for our children and for our future. Our rallying cry today is remember, support, and act. Today and every day, I remember. I call for your support, and I demand action. Thank you.
Shaka, as you noted, there are hidden places that do not see the headlines. These are the places of road traffic crash. But you're right. The world must walk into each other's open arms with support. Support for road traffic victims and their bereaved families. And Mike, among many, two of the more weighty words you mentioned were together and partnership. Through efforts supported by Bloomberg Philanthropies, the single largest donors to the road traffic safety field, we have come to understand the true meaning of these words and what we have been able to achieve together in partnership. Thank you very much for being with us and for the collaboration over the last few years. And Zoleka, my friend, I first heard you speak in London, I think more than 10 years ago or so, not too long after your beloved Senani died. And I'm moved every time I hear you tell the story. I'm so sorry for your loss. But you're right. We don't need to search for a vaccine. We have the solutions in front of us. What's needed is the courage to implement them. So thank you to all for your statements. We've decided we wanted to finish this event with giving the words to young people, to the youth. I want to give the floor now to Maolin Macatangay from the Philippines. She's a new member of the Yours teams who represents the voices of young people all around the world calling for more road traffic safety. Mao is one of the Yours colleagues who have made this event possible. Thanks to all of you for helping us organizing this event, and over to you, Maolin.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maolin Macatangay, and I am from Yours Youth for Road Safety. I would first of all like to thank everyone for joining us today in commemorating those we have lost and those who have suffered because of road crashes. I am shaken hearing about the devastating and long-term effects that road deaths have on friends and families of those who are gone too soon. I have experience of this in my best friend, who suffered from a road crash some years back. He was hit by a motorcycle on his way home from school, and his head hit the pavement, and he had a very severe concussion. Thankfully, he was taken to the emergency unit in time where the doctors fixed him up. But I am aware that it could have easily gone the other way. And I know that this is something my peers from all over the world experience and struggle with on a daily basis. Road crashes are the leading killers of young people aged 15 to 29 worldwide. And we, the youth, believe that it is time that we are not seen as the victims and the perpetrators of these deaths, but as leaders who can help further global road safety efforts. We call for a safe system that protects our lives and our dreams. It is for this reason that I and other youth leaders have joined together through the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. The Global Youth Coalition connects young leaders and helps them achieve the future they want to see by helping meet the targets set in the new decade of action. Today, I'm calling on youth, world leaders, and global decision makers to put road safety higher in their agendas. Let us work together so that the target of having the number of road-related deaths and injuries is met by the end of 2030. We, the youth, are claiming our space at the decision-making table so that we can start working for safer roads and sustainable mobility for all. We are doing our part to achieve 50 by 30. Will you join us?
Thanks so much, Mao, for your testimony. You've called on all of us to help one another to achieve the future we want to see and to reach 50 by 30. 50 by 30 means a 50% reduction in road traffic deaths and injuries by 2030, as called for by the UN General Assembly. This is a future we all want to see, a future where children like your friend are not harmed on the roads to and from school. We've now heard from victims, first responders, officials from the UN, foundations, and NGOs. Let's keep Maolin's question in mind. Will you join us? So please, in the comments, let us know what you thought of the event and how you want to collaborate in the future. We certainly, now a few words from me, we certainly want to see more. As we struggle still in a world with a pandemic and the aftermath of that pandemic still to come, it's also time for us to join forces, we can tackle this scourge of road traffic deaths. We can do more. We can collaborate. We can implement what we know works and reach 50 by 30 and even more. I certainly look forward, and my colleagues in the World Health Organization look forward to work with all of you to see this happen over the next decade. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your time and for your attention, for having joined us today. And now the final word will be with Chaka and his poem, Act, in which he reminds us to be wary of disregard. Enough is enough pain. After we remember, after we support, we must act. Thank you.
Be wary your disregard. This arrogance pushed into your actions will melt into amnesia, and we will forget that despite the enormity of the world, the reality is more absurd. As the global monetary cost of road traffic injuries is more than 500 billion each year, but we say life has no place. Life has no price. We make our lives. We shape our lives. We sacrifice and justify. But if we continue to ignore what's real, we will evolve into creatures running circles guided by an hourglass laid on its side. See, time will not stand still. Life is not statue, not stagnant. Imagine it being preserved. Imagine a safe future with a navel tied to its core, like affordable, like accessible, like sustainable modes of transportation. Imagine new headlines carrying in their mastheads a message of hope that road traffic deaths and injuries are reduced by 50% by 2030. Imagine instead a world where enough is enough, enough pain. Imagine enough is enough strain. Imagine enough prevention measures and emergency rescue services in place. Imagine enough dreams deferred. If we had enough in place, imagine less physical. Imagine less psychological, less emotional, and just imagine the amount of suffering that could have been avoided and still can be with more policy, with more community, with a commitment to put an end to these preventable tragedies. Enough is enough.